All right, we're going to get started. So I invite everyone to come into the sanctuary and warm up, sit real close together. We're going to snuggle this morning. More really looks beautiful. Do you want to do one prayer and go wait for Kate? Okay, can you hear me? Is that better? Yes. Thank you very much. All right. So I invite everyone to close their eyes and go within, and we'll start with a spiritual mind treatment. As I close my eyes, I sense and I feel and I know that divine glory of God that is right here and right now with us in this room. And I recognize God as omnipresent, omniscient, all-powerful and all-knowing, all good, ever expressing itself through all and as all. That essence of love and light and beauty, all the verities of God that are always in full expression. And I know that I am one with this power, this presence, this goodness of God. It lives and it moves and it has its beingness within me, as me, and by me. Because I know this is my perfect divine truth. I know this is the truth for each and every beautiful person here today. That each and every person is a divine expression of the Most High, perfect, whole, and complete. That essence of love and light and beauty, unique and individualized in the world. And so I know that this morning is divinely blessed by the power and the presence of God. I know the Spirit just moves through Richard James with ease and grace and his creativity. I know that Reverend DuVivier speaks the Word of God with divine light and love. And I know that each and every person here opens their hearts, their minds, their bodies, and their soul to hear the message that you came here to hear. So you can go out into the world as a reminder of God as your life. And so I'm grateful for the spiritual community. I am grateful for the essence of light and love that's permeating right here and right now. As I release my word into the law, knowing that it is good and knowing that it is done in the mind of God. And so it is.
There's an opening song called We Are One. Does everyone have a song? So many people like grains of sand, so much to learn about in every land. The more I learn, the more I understand. We are all different, but we are one. So many sounds of every living thing, so many languages, please join, and songs to sing. So many gifts that everyone can bring. We are all different, and we are one. We are relatives in one family. We are rainbows of color. We are waves in the sea. It's the same stars we worship. It's the same sky we see. We are all different. We are one. We are relatives in one family. We are rainbows of color. We are waves in different, we are one. We are all different, and we are one. Connected in spirit, and we are one.
Thank you, Richard James.
That's a beautiful song.
Really explains our teaching in a nutshell. Is your microphone on? My microphone's not on because I didn't think you wanted to hear me sing. I can break out in a tap dance though. Oh. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And let's give a big thanks to our musicians, Richard James. One more time. It's my pleasure to welcome you here. My name is Reverend Dr. Lori McMacken, and this is Centers of Spiritual Living Carlsbad, where we understand that there is a powerful good in the universe, greater than you are, and we can use it. I would like to invite Linda to come up, light our candles this morning as we remind ourselves of the underlying spirit of life and the divine unity of all. We light the candle for life. Life is everywhere present, flowing through each and every one of us. There's only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is my life now. Please affirm with me, I am life. We light the candle for love. The birth of love happens within each one of us every time we make room for the Christ consciousness in our hearts and recognize our unity. We are points of love within the hearts of God. Please affirm with me, I am love. We light the candle for light. The light of God is the presence and the power. We are always walking in the light. We radiate the light of God wherever we are. Affirm with me, I am light. We light a candle for beauty. We are made in the likeness and image of God. We are each whole, complete, and beautiful, just as we are. We accept the beauty of God's perfection as our perfection now. Please affirm with me, I am beauty. We light the candle for joy. Joy is the very nature of spirit and the true essence of each of us. We celebrate the joy of our own rebirth in the God consciousness. We each bring joy to the world. Please affirm with me, I am joy. We light the candle for peace. Today and every day we open our hearts to peace. We are each a center of peace in our world. Please affirm with me, I am peace. Finally, I invite you to take a moment to recognize your own light that is always shining within as we each honor our own metaphysical path of wholeness, oneness, and mental healing. The practice of universal spiritual principles. Thank you. I have a few announcements to share with you. So I want to offer a special welcome to anyone who's visiting for the first time today. Do we have any new visitors today? I think we're all oldies but goodies, right? But if you have any changes in your address or your email or anything like that, please mark it down on the books in the front lobby. So every Sunday we offer spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. And as our gift to you, if you have a prayer request today, you can either speak to me. I would love to pray with you. Miss Kate would love to pray with you. And Larry, are you praying these days?
Yeah.
And Larry is available for prayer also. He's our practitioner. If you want, you can write out your prayer in the prayer request box, and for sure our prayer team will pray over them during the week. I always get texts of the prayer requests, and we always pray for them. So we really do that for you. Tomorrow is Martin Luther King's birthday, And we have scheduled Michael Paul Smith to give a presentation honoring Dr. King's life in his words and music in February, which will be something special to look forward to. This Wednesday, Reverend Maureen is starting her spiritual Aloha group on Zoom. Everyone is invited to join her on Zoom at 6 p.m. We have a flyer today with the basics. It was in your program. You should have received it. Email her and she'll just send you the link directly. It says 4 p.m. and that's Hawaiian time. So make sure you understand that it's 6 p.m. in San Diego time. Next week is Potluck Sunday, and Reverend Almondra will be speaking. Then the following week, Reverend Karen Allen, Rick Dale's wife, will be a guest speaker with Reverend Almondra, and she will be speaking again. And then Reverend Almondra will be speaking again. So I know you'll enjoy them a lot. I also hope you can sign up to volunteer during our fellowship today. Last week we forgot to sign up, so please get the volunteer list out and put your name on there. And we want to give thanks to everyone who do volunteer. This is truly a community-based spiritual center, and it takes a team to keep it going. So let's recognize some of our behind-the-scene volunteers and helpers who may not show up on stage, but are so important. So, flowers were by Reverend Lori Mack. Yay! Thank you. I drove all the way over to Franco's. The greeter, Ruth Ann. Treats, Lula and Morgan. And our loyal Jim was here setting up and doing the video recording. Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate you. Of course, thanks to Angel and Jan, who are here every week to help us set up. Did we say anything about us leaving? Oh, well, you know that Reverend Kate will be going to Guam, overseas. Guatemala. Sorry. And I will be going to India. We're both going to be doing international travel to assist humanity. And matter of fact, I just want to say, last week, I think we celebrated birthdays, but when I left, someone gave me a check towards the gratitude wells. Oh. And then I went and visited a friend, and they gave me a check towards the gratitude well. And I've had multiple people give me checks towards the gratitude wells. And I'm having a celebration with some friends, and they're all going to be giving me checks towards the gratitude well. And I didn't even ask for them. So I am going to put a GoFundMe on my Facebook, and if you just want to give a little bit, it's up to you. Not everyone can afford the whole thing. If you want to just give a little bit toward a well and be part of this joyous expression of giving, I will put that on my Facebook probably sometime this week. So we have a group reading. I invite you to take your group reading out of your program. And please read it aloud with me. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect love and perfect abundance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect abundance. And now for our new song.
Holy ground.
Please stand for our group song.
As I walked through the door, I felt a presence. And I knew this was a place where love abides. For this is the temple, the God of love abides here. We are standing in His presence on holy ground. We are standing on holy ground, and I know that there are angels all around. Let us feel God's love right now, that sweet presence here with us on holy ground.
Thank you. And now I would like to invite Morgan up to give our reading.
Good morning, everyone. And now we have it. Today's reading is adapted from Ernest Holmes' book, This Thing Called Life, and now it's called The Art of Life. Life works by direct affirmation. There is no other way for it to work. This is why we are told to be still and know that all things are possible to God. We are told to affirm, to assert, to declare this truth in the face of all apparent opposition, to claim abundance in the midst of poverty, to affirm health in the midst of sickness, to decree joy in the midst of sorrow, and to announce the kingdom of God here and now. Why are we told to do this? Because this is the way life works. This thing called life knows nothing about discord or fear. It forever sings the song of its own being. This song bursts forth from the joy of its own inner wholeness. We too could become part of this celestial choir if we knew how rightly to affirm life. What is it we're going to affirm? We are going to affirm that life is good. Life is good. We are going to do this even though everything we see and touch seems to contradict the allness of life. We are going to be still and know that our being is derived from pure spirit, that life itself is our host, and that we are not strangers on the shores of time, but divine beings, guests of the kingdom of good. It is normal to believe in God. It is natural to believe that good has more power than evil, that love can heal hate. What if we have been disappointed and chagrined? What if we have suffered many disillusionments, many emotional embarrassments? Who hasn't? Let us not forget that darkness has no power over light. Darkness has no power over light. Just as the warm rays of the sun will melt the largest icebergs, so a persistent inner perception of the abiding oversoul God, the presence, will heal our fears and straighten out our repressions. To live in conscious communion with life, even for a short time, will convert our fears into faith, our doubts into certainty, our hurt and sense of failure into something triumphant. There is a sublime and divine hope for everyone. Hope for everyone who is willing to surrender themselves to the great good, to the warm embrace of this thing called life. And so it is.
Here's a song by Michael Gott, and it's called Love Can Move the World. Each one of us has more power than we realize. Just one life, that's all that we've been given. Just one chance to make a difference. Will we live? I'm just one person. I'm only human. But only human means we've got a lot to give. Love can move the world as the moon in the sky moves the sea. Love can cause the wars to cease. Love can move the world to peace. It's a tide that begins with you and me. Move the world as the warmth of the sun moves the tree. Feel the wind of love increase as we move the world to peace. Come love the world with me. Look around, there's someone hurting near you. Look around, there must be something you can do, something we can do. Look within you, find your spirit. To change the world, there's got to be a change in you. As the moon in the sky moves the sea, love can cause the wars to cease. Love can move the world to peace. It's a tide that begins with you and me. Love can move the world as the warmth of the sun moves the tree. Feel the wind of love increase as we move the world to peace. Come love the world with me. Come love the world with me.
And now, without further ado, our amazing spiritual leader and inspirational speaker, Reverend Kate DuVivier. Give her a big hand.
Well, good morning. I want to say good morning, church, because we've been having Reverend Almondra back, and she always trains us to say good morning, church. And let's also say good morning, God, right? So good morning, everyone. Last week, if you were here, Reverend Lori led us through a really, really nice visioning exercise as a way to start the new year. And I thought it was really helpful, although like she said, our vision of our future is always evolving because we're always evolving. Life changes. So as we move forward, we can keep revisiting our vision and moving it forward. So usually, always in January, we go back to the basics of science of mind. Generally, we go right to the big 600-page long Science of Mind textbook and concentrate for the whole month on the first 4 sections of the introduction to the Science of Mind textbook. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different, kind of use our Declaration of Principles as a launch pad for my talk. So I want to say I'll be mentioning some of those, but if you're interested, they are printed every week in the Science of Mind magazine. So even if you have one, an old copy lying around at home, you have the written list of the Declaration of Principles. And I decided to call my talk today this thing called Life, after the book that Ernest Holmes wrote. I felt like it was geared to more of an everyday audience instead of the textbook, which obviously is geared towards serious students. Not that we're not serious students, but he said that this thing called Life was his favorite book of all the ones he had written, and I like it a lot. It's very direct, and that's the book that Morgan read from today. So personally, I like to imagine that when he finished writing the 600 plus page textbook, and then he spent years teaching people, he might have realized that he needed something a little shorter and more approachable, at least to start with. So really he wrote what was an early self-help guide, I believe. It's got a lot of helpful tips about try this, do that. Now, you know, Ernest Holmes didn't actually run a church himself. He ran the Institute of Religious Science. He wrote and he gave lectures and he taught. And then it was his students that were inspired to actually start the churches, which then he often spoke at. So a few years before he died, he gave a series of lectures in Florida that he called this thing called Life. And in it, he reviewed some of the highlights of religious science. So I wanted to share a little bit of what he talked about. At the very beginning of one of his lectures, he said this. I really liked it. He said, I have enjoyed talking with you. I never talk to people or at people. Our work is a sort of counseling together to try to find out what we believe, why we believe it, whether or not we think it makes sense, and whether it will work. For we have no platitudes, no formulas, we have no sweet sayings. If we did, I wouldn't be here, nor would anybody else. Religious science, in essence, is not anything new in the world. In action, it is new. It is a putting together of the highlights of the thoughts of the ages and seeing what they add up to. And it is an attempt to use these thoughts and embody their meaning for life. It's a life, it's a living based upon the best that the world knows. So I thought that was an interesting description of religious science. So personally, I'm starting my 10th year as a minister, and I still find that when I tell someone outside of our teaching that I'm a minister, they have all kinds of ideas suddenly about what it is I must believe that have very little to do with what I actually believe. It's funny, you know, when I tell people I've known for years and years, all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, I can't say that in front of you. I'm like, no, I'm still me. I haven't actually changed. Because although I'm a minister, I don't feel like a preacher. I just teach what I can, but I'm also learning a lot from everyone also. You know, so I feel more like a teacher, or actually maybe a student teacher. So I really liked reading what Holmes said about what we are doing here is we're coming together to find out what it is we really believe. You know, and religious science was picked as the name of our teaching to just reflect that idea that we can explore religion as methodically and as scientifically as any other science. We can study it. We can make hypotheses. And then we can try them out and see what works. and then share what we learn with each other. That's what we're doing. Ernest Holmes, our founder, was not a prophet. He was a student and a teacher and a mystic, not a prophet. So of course, that brings me to, what do we believe? So the first statement in our Declaration of Principles, which was written almost 100 years ago, so I think it's good. It stood the test of time, but it's also, let's say, open enough that we can reinterpret it as we understand more and more about things. The first declaration says, "We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one thing, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause." Nothing else causes it to be but itself. This oneness, manifests itself through and as all creation, but it is not absorbed by its creation. It never gets used up. In fact, we say that all of creation is made of the very substance of Spirit itself. And in the Declaration, it says it this way. It says, "The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God." So, 100 years later, or 90 whatever years later, I want to add in that I do believe this. And I also think that we should say and recognize that love is a synonym for the word God. We define love as the self-givingness of the Spirit. Life, God is always giving. The self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in the terms of creation. So we can directly experience that God is love, that love is life, and that life is, if you think of it this way, life is beingness, being. Life is love, loving. Life is. So, knowing or understanding that this oneness, we call Spirit, manifests itself through all creation, brings us to the second declaration of what we believe. We believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us. And we believe that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. So after all, if you say, and we do say, is my microphone okay?
Can't hear you that well.
Something is funny
Speak up a
about
little bit.
it. I can see, I stand up here and I see little tiny faces. I've got myself kind of hooked in there. No, does that work better?
That's much better.
Is that better?
Good.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
We'll try that. Am I loud enough?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, good.
Yay.
So we do say that we're one with Spirit, that we're an individualization of Spirit. And if you say that and you understand that, I think of it as we're some part of God, indivisible from God, and yet not the allness of God itself. So in a simple way, I guess an elementary way, I kind of think sometimes of myself as being like an ear in the body of God, or being like a hand, or being like one little tiny brain cell. in the body of God. Well, it's not really right. What's right is the way Ernest Holmes puts it, which is we're a center in infinity, which must, of course, because it's infinity, have an infinite number of centers, right? That would be real, but sometimes it's hard to grasp. But what I do know is that each one of us is playing a role in the expansion of spirit itself. That each one of us is, in a way, you could say, contributing to the unfolding and expansion of spirit's own self-knowingness as we come to know ourselves more and more. So it seems like perhaps we have an important role to play in this thing called life. Although, individually, we just feel ourselves sometimes to be small and inconsequential. But how could that be true? Each one of us is made of the very substance of spirit itself. Each one of us is important in ways we may not exactly understand it. So, I haven't found exactly those words reflected in the Science of Mind glossary, which I always use as a shortcut when I want to find out what are we talking about here. I go to the glossary because it has nice little paragraphs of what they really mean. But you will find the idea of expansion, this eternal expansion. And our third declaration, our third principle in the declarations is this: we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. So that's a big statement. Life is not static. Life is always expanding. And yet, at the same time, it's totally limited. We talk about the Big Bang Theory scientifically, but in religious science, we say life is always. It has no beginning. It has no end. It takes place now. It is always at the point of beginning, always at the point of beingness. So if you can understand that there's only one thing, God or life or first cause, it has to be that way. Always expanding. In fact, when you think about what spirit is, and you find that it's difficult to wrap your mind around the idea that it is everything and beyond, it has to be this way. Because if you could imagine in your mind that there was something outside of God, separate from God, and a lot of people have a concept of a devil, which I don't understand, how there could be something else battling with God. If you are able to imagine anything, even if it's as simple as a flower existing outside of God, what you do need to do is enlarge your definition of what spirit is until it encompasses everything. Because there can be only one God, one thing, we call it the thing itself, life itself, nothing else. Everything has to be part and parcel of this great allness. There's spirit and there's nothing. You know, and when I speak of the devil, it's logical, or somehow, I don't know. When I was writing this, it was like, well, the next principle is we believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Heaven is within us. There's no hell within us. Hell is not anything that exists. There's no limit placed on our good by Spirit. Spirit is only good. But we're free. We know that. We have a consciousness, and we're perfectly able to either expand it or muddy things up, right? So we say, well, yeah, there can be evil or what we consider to be misfortune, but it's caused by us using our own powers of freedom to take actions without any thought or, just randomly or with ill intent. That's where evil comes from. It's just us missing the mark, as Ernest Holmes put it. The fact is, life is always responding to us. So that's why we can say that your thoughts are so important. So part of the talk that Holmes gave in Florida went this way. He said, I'll just read this. Life exists. Nothing is more certain. Life is intelligent. It responds to us. We happen to believe it's a spiritual presence everywhere, equally distributed, and within us, and around us, and everywhere else. Life, call it God, call it anything you want to, there is something present with us and in us, out of whose essence all things are made, within whose creative imagination all things are formed, and by whose inexorable and immutable laws all things are held in place. This is self-evident. Here we are, and we couldn't be here if these things were not true. This thing called life, now, what is it to do with the human personality? He says, this thing called life is the human personality. Just as we have not seen God, we have not seen each other. We think that we have seen each other, but we haven't. We have seen the objective manifestation of each other, of something that is impelled and propelled by an invisible awareness, which is the real self. And he goes on. Now there is such a real self. There isn't any question about it. There is the self that no one has ever plumbed. The more deeply psychology plumbs what it calls the unconscious, or some of the deeper aspects of this self, the more it finds it still has not reached. There is always more. The Bible speaks of it as a river whose source no person has ever seen. Holmes says there is a flowing into each one of us, in my estimation, a unique presentation of the universe itself, and every person is a center in consciousness, which is itself universal or cosmic, all-encompassing, endless, forever expansive. He said, we are all in the process of an eternal evolution destined to be ever more and never less ourselves. Every person is in the pathway of unfoldment. So, what is he saying about us and our relationship to Spirit? He is saying we are, in our form and experiences, we are a manifestation of Spirit itself, and that each one of us has that invisible, beautiful something within us that is in this pathway of expansion. And we know it to be true. We know it simply if you were here and you remember the visioning process. Weren't you able to tap into something? Something that spoke to you, something that wanted to be expressed through you. I mean, we're doing it in little ways all the time. So I wanted to share that because he just said it in a different way than I ever heard before. But it makes sense. You know, I think it was, well, you've heard it said. There's more to, you know, there's more to any person than what you see between their hat and their shoes, right? I don't know, that's a paraphrase. Great, but that's true. So, understanding that, the next declaration in our set of principles is, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Well, I have to tell you that when I read that, I'm like, oh, come on. No discord, wouldn't even that be boring? I can't even imagine such a thing. And so since I was giving this talk, I forced myself to look up discord in the dictionary. So, discord in the dictionary, you know, two meanings that I came across. The first one is disagreement between people. But the second meaning I think we should maybe focus on is discord is more of a musical definition. It's simply a lack of harmony when notes are struck together. So maybe we can think about discord that way. But you know, I have to say, for me, before I looked in the dictionary, I always thought of discord as maybe hardship. So in our declaration of principles, we're not saying people are never going to experience hardship. No, we're cold in here today because the heat didn't get turned on. But you know, I have a friend in Milwaukee, and her power was out for 30 hours, and it's like way below zero. So, you know, we're not saying that if you're a good religious scientist, your power's never going to go out. We're talking about living in harmony with life. We're saying we believe that people can achieve a state of consciousness where they're able to live in harmony with each other and with life. So if you think about this principle as stating that the ultimate goal of life is living in freedom and harmony, then that seems like something a lot of people would like. And maybe it's actually possible. I think it could be. And it wouldn't be boring either, right? And this is, well, this is a little bit off subject. I don't know. But when you talk about discord and disagreement, it's not always all bad. So I actually belong to a group of ministers, and we email each other. And usually it's really great, very harmonious, because we're like, do you have a reading for a certain type of wedding or things like that? Or does anyone have a workbook for this book studies? Something like that. So it's very helpful. But last week, maybe things got a little less harmonious when people were talking about what they ought to tell people on Sunday. Should they just teach spiritual mind principles, or should they tell them exactly how to apply those principles in their lives? So, and it's all good, because you know, all the ministers do teach spiritual mind principles, otherwise they wouldn't be religious science ministers. It's, you know, it doesn't make sense. But for me, and this is why I think, you know, we say disagreement is bad, but sometimes it's like saying seeing differences can actually bring about an illumination. So when I was thinking about it, because I was thinking, Well, what do I think is right? I'm not going to tell anyone to go to the streets or protest or anything like that. But here at our center, we like to provide opportunities to give. So Reverend Lori is working on the wells. I think you're up to like 49 wells that you have gotten going in India so far. That's putting our spiritual practice into action. It's an opportunity to give, and it's totally voluntary, and people in our congregation have really contributed a lot. So it's been really, really nice. But in thinking about the conversation between the ministers, I realized something in thinking about what I think this community is that I never thought about before. And everyone that I know of who's here today or who has been here over the years are mostly all givers, caregivers. We, in this group, are mostly people who are helpful to others. I mean, it's almost like an identifying characteristic that I would say that you all share. And it's beautiful. You know, because I do get to hear about what's going on in your lives sometimes, and so I can just let you know that many of you are the rock in your families. Many of you are what I would call the glue in your families. And many of you have and do give all kinds of support for children, grandchildren, other people's children, nieces, nephews. Many of you contribute to your local food banks, have volunteered in so many ways, from the flower fields to the Chamber of Commerce to cleanup programs and different nonprofits. I just know that it's an amazing group. You do so much, you know. Reverend Lori heading off to India. And it's not just limited to your own little circle. I know people who have helped their neighbors and strangers. And then that's people. What about nature? A lot of you have engaged with nature in different ways, whether it's simply gardening, recycling, cleanup programs, working with nature in some capacity. And I also know a lot of you are engaged with animals through taking care of pets, your own and other people's. And of course, I want to say, you know, today Reverend Lori went through the list of all the people that volunteered to help. Well, everyone here makes this center exist. We wouldn't be in existence if it weren't for the many ways that the congregation supports the center, financially, with volunteering. It's great, and just being part of it. So that was my experience with Discord that I just wanted to share. There is good for us. Sometimes you just have to look for it, and it could be that thing that you think is unwanted condition of talking or disagreeing might actually be an opportunity for greater understanding. And it was a blessing for me because it expanded my idea of what we are about. We're about being a spiritual home for people who maybe need to come together and have kind of a like-minded group of peers where we can replenish and recharge. So I really want to encourage you to consider being part of the Wednesday night Zoom group. You have a flyer in your programs. Reverend Maureen is in Hawaii right now, and I just talked to her and she was like, oh, now I miss the congregation so much, let's do a Zoom. So she is up for it. It'll be really easy. There's no homework. She's going to base it on whatever the day is from 365 Days of Science of Mind. And you don't even need to have the book because she's going to put it up on Zoom so you can read it right on the Zoom. So it's going to be very nice, just a way to get together and share. Because one of the important things that I realize is our fellowship. I mean, I can stand up here and tell you about Science of Mind, and I happen to know that I'm talking to some people who've been in Science of Mind longer than me and have listened to fantastic ministers who know a lot more than me. So why do we come back? We come back to touch base, right? It's just like, why do you smell a rose? Every time you smell a rose, you are emotionally strengthened. It's the way it works. Every time we get together in a group and remind ourselves of the often hidden reality behind what's going on, that each one of us is a spiritual being having a human experience, it strengthens us and we're able to move forward into our lives. So yeah, so I'm totally off my written talk here, and I'm not even going to find a place here. But I'll let you know, don't worry, I'm not going to go over all the declarations and principles. I just want to get out there the main idea. What are we doing? What is this teaching? How can we use it? And what should we know? So I think the main thing to know is to remind ourselves over and over again that there really is a power for good and that we really can use it, and that as we use it, we are engaging in a transformation of discord into harmony. That as our understanding increases, our consciousness expands. As our consciousness expands, the consciousness of the universe expands. And it's a beautiful feedback loop where then we also are benefiting, right? We're always in a cycle of giving and receiving. That's how life works. So in closing, I just want you to look at each other in the room. And we have some people that aren't here. Hopefully they'll be able to watch us on YouTube later. And just look around and know that truth for each of us. You are enough. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. You are this thing called life. Living as you, through you, for you, with you. And all is well, and so it is.
So it is.
That was a great talk. And I was thinking, which song do I want to sing right now? And I was going to sing one thing, but I've got this song that everybody knows. It's called Imagine, John Lennon. And you know, one of the lyrics is no religion too. It's about not doing what everybody else seems to do, and you're stuck in the, hundreds of years of you've got to do it just this way. It's about spirituality. It's about imagination. It's about reaching out. I'm talking too much. So let's get to the song. if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. We can do it. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of all of us. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. Just imagine that.
Thank you. Is the microphone on? Okay, great. Good. It's hard for me to tell up here exactly what the microphone is doing. Right now, it's our time to share and support our center. I think we could think of it as a demonstration of our prosperity and our gratitude. Because when you are grateful, you are acknowledging that you have something, some healing, some experience. It belongs to you. It belongs to the universe. And this center belongs to you. And it belongs to the universe. So I just want to thank everyone for all they do to support this center. And in your program, we have a little verse. And I'll let Richard lead it, not me.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed.
Thank you, everyone. So, reminders. Okay, you're not going to miss our fellowship because Morgan and Merla outdid themselves. I just want to say, if you sign up for snacks, it's okay to just bring a bag of cookies. You don't have to do what they do, because we do need some volunteer sign-ups. Since Reverend Lori and I are both going to be gone for a few weeks, I am hoping to get the sign-ups filled in a little more than last week, when we were all so happy with our visioning that we just waltzed out the door without getting a single sign up. I was like, oops. So, oh yeah, next week is Potluck Sunday. Yeah, so don't forget, next week is Potluck Sunday. That's always fun. And Reverend Almondra will be speaking. That's always fun too. So, before we do our closing song, I'd like to give a spiritual mind treatment. So I invite you to just relax and know the truth with me, that this really is a spiritual universe. There's nothing but spirit. And I celebrate and love the fact that that means that each one of us is an individualization of spirit. We are each centered in spirit, centers of spirit, connected in beautiful ways. And since this is true, I understand that I can stand right here and make a declaration of good on behalf of each and every person here today. And so I do. And I can also make a declaration of, on behalf of each and every person who is connected to our center today, whether they are here or not. And so I do. And I know that each one of us that I am thinking of is also connected to so many other people, that this good is flowing out through us, for us, into our lives and out from our lives. There is good overflowing. And I see and know and understand that this good now takes the place of perfect life unfolding. So I claim greater health, greater prosperity, greater joy, a sense of peace, an ability to receive more and more good into our lives, including prosperity and abundance in all its forms. And that includes not just financial security, which I claim, know, and accept, but also abundance in all its other forms, abundant friendship, abundant joy, abundant gladness and good. I know that our ability to communicate with each other is absolutely brilliant, beneficial, and brings good to each of us. There is good unfolding for each of us, for all of us, right now, in this moment. I accept that this is so. I understand that Spirit responds to us, to our beliefs, to our thoughts, to our feelings. And I believe, understand, and feel this truth, that good unfolds right here right now, that we carry it with us. Together, as a group, and individually, as we move through our day, our week, our lives. Each one of us is this thing called life, unfolding in beautiful, wonderful, and harmonious ways. This is the truth. I give thanks that it's so. I turn it over to Spirit, knowing it is already done, and invite you to close with me by saying together, and so it is.